Diana walked into the high-end fashion boutique, her heart heavy, but her face carrying a tired smile. She had been working there for months, but every day felt like a battle. Her manager, Susan, treated her more like a servant than a sales assistant. Whenever Diana made a sale, Susan always found a way to take her commission, leaving Diana with nothing. Most days, she wasn't even allowed to sell. Instead, she ran errands, picking up dry cleaning, fetching coffee, and cleaning the stockroom, while other workers attended to wealthy customers. "You should be grateful," Susan would sneer. "You don't belong here anyway." The senior staff weren't any better. They stole her clients, mocked her simple clothes, and gave her the hardest tasks. But Diana never complained. She needed this job. One afternoon, as Diana carefully folded expensive dresses, the glass door swung open. An old man walked in. His clothes were worn out, his shoes had holes, and his hair was messy. The other workers wrinkled their noses in disgust. "Sir, you can't be here," one of them sneered. "This is a luxury store." The old man smiled, revealing yellowed teeth. "I just want to look around," he said softly. Susan stormed over, her heels clicking sharply against the polished floor. She looked him up and down, then snorted. "We don't serve people like you," she said coldly. "This is a boutique for high-class clients, not beggars." The other workers laughed cruelly. Diana's heart ached. She knew what it felt like to be looked down upon. She quickly walked over and gently touched the old man's arm. "Sir, would you like some water?" she asked kindly. The old man's eyes lit up. "That would be nice." Diana ignored the stares and whispers from her colleagues as she brought him a cold glass of water. She helped him sit down and smiled. "Take your time, sir," she said warmly. "Let me know if you need help." The old man touched her hand gently. His skin was rough, full of wrinkles. He looked at her like she was the first kind person he had met in a long time. "Good things happen to good people," he whispered. "Remember that, my dear." Diana didn't know why, but his words touched her heart deeply. Mr. Benson finished his water and smiled at Diana, his wrinkled hands resting on the table. "You are a kind girl," he said warmly. "Help me pick out 10 luxury outfits." Diana blinked in surprise. 10, he nodded. "I want the best, the finest suits, silk shirts, and designer shoes." Her heart raced with excitement. This could be her biggest sale ever. Maybe Susan would finally see her worth. Maybe today was her lucky day. She quickly began selecting the most elegant suits, carefully choosing pieces that matched Mr. Benson's frame. She adjusted collars, picked silk ties, and even found shoes to complement his new look. The other workers stood at a distance, whispering among themselves. "That girl is such a fool." One of them snickered. "He's clearly broke." Another laughed. Susan folded her arms and watched with an amused smirk. "Let's see how this turns out," she murmured. After nearly an hour, Diana laid out the final selection. "Sir, I think these will look great on you," she said cheerfully. Mr. Benson clapped his hands. "I'll take them all." Diana beamed with joy. "That will be $225,000, sir," she said excitedly. The room fell silent. The other employees raised their eyebrows. Susan smirked. Mr. Benson patted his pockets, then chuckled softly. "Oh dear," he sighed. "I don't have any money on me." Diana's smile froze. The boutique erupted in laughter. "Are you kidding me?" One of the senior staff shrieked. "You wasted all that time on a poor old beggar." What happens next will shock everyone. But before we start, let's do something fun. Comment your location below. Let's see who's watching from a farthest place. All right, let's begin. Susan's eyes gleamed with amusement as she walked toward Diana. "You really are stupid, aren't you?" she sneered. "You actually thought this old fool could afford those clothes?" Diana turned to Mr. Benson. "Sir, you don't have any money?" He sighed. "I do, but it's with my grandson. He's very rich. I just need to find him." Susan burst into laughter. "His grandson? Oh, how convenient." She turned to the other workers. "You hear that, ladies? This homeless old man is looking for his rich grandson." The staff howled with laughter, voices thick with mockery. Diana's face burned with embarrassment. But she refused to look away from Mr. Benson's sad eyes. Instead of yelling or arguing, she simply smiled softly. "It's okay, sir," she said gently. "Don't worry about it." The laughter stopped. Susan narrowed her eyes. "Excuse me, are you really going to stand here and act like a fool?" Diana ignored her and pressed a few bills into the old man's hand. "Here, sir," she said softly. "At least take this for a taxi home." Mr. Benson stared at her in shock. His hands trembled as he accepted the money. "You are a rare soul," he whispered. Susan scoffed and stepped closer, her voice sharp and cold. "I warned you, Diana. I told you not to bring filth into this boutique. Lux Group has a class to maintain. This store is part of the most exclusive fashion empire, and we cannot bring down our standards by associating with street people." She shook her head in disgust. "You're ruining our image, Diana. And for that, you're fired. Get out of my store." Diana took a deep breath, blinking back tears. She picked up her bag, turned on her heels, and walked out of the store without another word. She didn't know why, but something felt different. As she disappeared down the street, Mr. Benson stood there watching her leave with a knowing smile. She had no idea her life was about to change forever. As Diana walked out of the boutique, her heart heavy, Mr. Benson turned to Susan. His face was calm, but his voice was firm. "You should not judge people based on their appearance," he said softly. "Kindness is more valuable than expensive clothes." Susan rolled her eyes. "Oh, please, spare me the lecture, old man," she snapped, crossing her arms with a smirk. "Do you even know where you are? Lux Group is a billion-dollar fashion empire. This boutique serves only elite people. Someone like you doesn't belong here." Susan snapped coldly. Mr. Benson shook his head gently. "Wealth is not just about money, young lady. It is about the heart." Susan's face darkened with rage. "That's it. Security," she barked. Two guards rushed forward at her command. "Get this poor old man out of my store. He has no right to stand here and lecture me." The guards grabbed Mr. Benson's arms, but he only chuckled. "There's no need for force, my dear. I am leaving." With one last glance at Susan, Mr. Benson walked out of the boutique and stepped into the bright afternoon sun. Susan smirked in victory as the other staff laughed, their voices echoing with mockery. Little did they know, she had just made the biggest mistake of her life. Outside, Mr. Benson hailed a taxi and climbed in, giving the driver an address. As the car moved through the bustling city streets, he stared out the window, deep in thought. Today, he had seen true kindness and true cruelty. When the taxi finally pulled up in front of a massive estate, the driver's eyes widened in disbelief. "Sir, this is your house," he stammered. Mr. Benson smiled and handed him the fare. He stepped out and walked through the golden gates of his mansion. Inside, everything was lavish: marble floors, golden chandeliers, and walls adorned with priceless paintings. At the heart of the grand living room stood Leonard Benson, the sharp-eyed, well-dressed, powerful CEO of Lux Group. He looked every bit the billionaire he was. "Grandfather." Leonard's deep voice filled the room as he hurried forward. "Where have you been? You were gone for hours." Mr. Benson smiled warmly. "I was testing the world, my boy, and I met a very kind soul." Leonard frowned. "Testing the world?" His grandfather sighed and explained everything: the visit to the boutique, the cruel treatment he received from the staff, and how Diana, a humble sales assistant, was the only one who showed him kindness. When he finished, Leonard's expression turned cold. "They treated you like that? They threw you out of our store," he growled. Mr. Benson nodded. Leonard's fists clenched. "That boutique belongs to me. They work for my company. How dare they throw out my grandfather?" Mr. Benson placed a calming hand on his grandson's arm. "The girl, she was different. She was kind. She must be rewarded." Leonard turned to his assistant, a sharp-dressed man named Richard. "Get me the security footage from the boutique," he ordered. Minutes later, Leonard sat in his private office, watching the footage on a massive screen. He saw everything: Diana ignoring the insults, helping the old man, and even giving her own money for his taxi fare. Leonard leaned back in his chair, eyes serious. "Find her," he said quietly. Richard hesitated. "Sir, Find this woman, Leonard repeated firmly. I want to know everything about her. I want to see her. Richard nodded and rushed out of the office. Leonard sat alone, watching the footage again. A kind and innocent girl. Who was she? Diana walked slowly down the street. Her feet ached. Her heart was heavy. She was jobless now, with no idea where her next meal would come from. She had given her last bit of money to Mr. Benson, and now she had nothing. The hot afternoon sun burned her skin as she clutched her worn bag tightly. She took a deep breath, trying not to cry. Suddenly, a sleek black luxury car rolled to a smooth stop beside her. Diana froze. The tinted window rolled down, and a man in a sharp suit leaned out. "Miss Diana?" he asked, his voice firm yet polite. Her heart pounded. "Why, yes. My name is Richard. I am the personal assistant to Mr. Leonard Benson, CEO of Lux Group." Diana's breath caught. "Lux Group? My employer would like to meet you. Please come with me." Diana stared in disbelief. This had to be a scam. Why would the CEO of a billion-dollar company want to see her? I think you have the wrong person." Richard shook his head gently. "No, we don't. Mr. Benson sent me personally. You'll be safe." She hesitated. This was insane. And yet something inside whispered, "Go." She swallowed hard and nodded. "Okay." Richard opened the door. Diana slid into the softest leather seat she had ever felt. As the car pulled away, she clutched her bag tightly, staring out the window. This was the biggest risk of her life. When the car passed through the golden gates, Diana gasped. The mansion before her was breathtaking, the kind of place she had only seen in movies. A long driveway stretched toward a grand estate with towering marble pillars and glittering chandeliers. As the car stopped, uniformed staff rushed forward to open the door for her. Diana stepped out, overwhelmed. "This way, please," Richard said gently, guiding her through the extravagant entrance. Everything was polished, elegant, perfect. And then she saw him. At the top of the marble staircase stood Leonard Benson. Diana froze. She had only seen his face in magazines and business articles. In real life, he was more powerful, more commanding, and more breathtakingly handsome. Everyone in the city knew his name, Leonard Benson, the youngest billionaire, the most successful CEO, the man every woman dreamed of marrying. Suddenly, Diana remembered Susan's voice echoing in her mind. "If I ever meet Leonard Benson, I'll make sure he falls in love with me. He's the perfect man, rich, powerful, and handsome." And now, he stood right in front of her. Leonard's gaze met hers. His lips curved into a small, knowing smile. "Miss Diana," he said smoothly. "I'm Leonard Benson." Diana forced herself to breathe. I'm Diana," she stammered. His smile widened, amused by her nervousness. Then a warm voice rang out. There she is." Diana turned quickly. At the bottom of the staircase stood Mr. Benson, his face glowing with happiness. "Diana, my dear," he said, walking toward her. "Thank you for coming." Diana smiled, relieved. You live here." The old man chuckled. "Oh yes, my dear. I'm not as poor as I seemed, am I?" Diana's knees went weak. She had unknowingly helped the grandfather of the richest, most powerful man in the city. Her life was about to change forever. She suddenly felt so small in this grand place. Mr. Benson turned to Leonard and said firmly, "This is the kind of woman you should marry." Diana gasped. She laughed shyly, waving her hands. "Oh no, that's not." But when she looked at Leonard, she froze. He wasn't laughing. He wasn't smirking. He was just staring at her, a long, silent stare. And for some reason, it made Diana's heart race. Diana sat in the grand living room of the Benson mansion, feeling completely out of place. The soft glow of the chandelier above her, the expensive velvet couch beneath her, and the quiet hum of servants moving about, it all felt unreal. Across from her, Leonard Benson sat with his usual unreadable expression. "I ran a background check on you," he said calmly. Diana's heart skipped a beat. "What?" Leonard leaned back in his chair. "I want to know more about the girl who gave my grandfather her last bit of money. And I found out something interesting." Diana swallowed hard. What did you find out?" Leonard's gaze softened slightly. You live alone. No family. No one to support you. His voice wasn't mocking or pitying, just a statement of fact. Diana looked down, gripping the edge of her dress. He was right. She had been on her own for a long time, but hearing it said aloud hurt more than she expected. Leonard sighed and gestured to Richard, his assistant. Bring them in, he said. Within moments, servants entered the room carrying multiple boxes, large, elegant, wrapped in gold ribbons. Diana's eyes widened. What is this? A thank you gift, Leonard replied simply, for helping my grandfather. One servant opened a box revealing designer clothes, silk dresses, and custom-made shoes. Another opened a second box. Inside was a luxury handbag worth more than Diana's entire yearly salary. Then, Richard stepped forward, holding a small black box. Diana's breath caught as he flipped it open. Inside was a set of car keys. A Rolls-Royce, Leonard said. It's yours. Diana's jaw dropped. What? No, I can't accept this. Leonard raised an eyebrow. Why not? Diana shook her head firmly. I didn't help Mr. Benson because I didn't want anything in return. I did it because it was the right thing to do. Leonard stared at her as if trying to understand. You're refusing a Rolls-Royce? He asked, as if no one had ever done that before. Diana nodded. Yes. Leonard was silent for a long moment. Then, to her surprise, he smiled. A small, genuine smile. You're different, he murmured. Mr. Benson, who had been quietly watching, suddenly clapped his hands. Then if you won't accept the gifts, he said warmly, at least stay with us for a while. Diana's head snapped up. Stay here. Yes. The old man nodded eagerly. I enjoy your company. I want you to stay in the mansion for a little while. Keep me company, child. Diana hesitated. The idea of living in this grand place felt overwhelming, but the old man's eyes pleaded with such kindness, and in the end, she couldn't say no. Days later, Diana had barely adjusted to life in the mansion when trouble arrived. A sleek red convertible sped through the gates, its engine roaring. The moment it stopped, a woman in designer heels stepped out, her lips pursed in irritation. Lucy. Diana didn't know her, but the moment Lucy's icy gaze landed on her, she knew exactly what was coming. Lucy stormed into the mansion, her heels clicking loudly against the marble floor. Leo, she called out, her voice filled with fake sweetness. Leonard walked in, adjusting the cuff of his designer suit. His expression remained cool. Lucy. Lucy's sharp eyes flickered toward Diana, and instantly, her face twisted in disgust. And who is this? She asked, her voice dripping with venom. Before Diana could speak, Mr. Benson smiled cheerfully. This is Diana, my dear guest. Lucy laughed coldly. Guest? In this mansion? Are you serious? She turned to Leonard. Leo, who is she really? A maid? Some social climber trying to get close to you? Diana's hands clenched, but before she could defend herself, Leonard spoke first. She is none of those things, he said, his voice firm. She is our guest, and you will show her respect. Lucy froze, her lips parting in shock. Diana stared at Leonard in surprise. Lucy quickly composed herself, flipping her hair. Respect? Leo, open your eyes. She's poor. She doesn't belong here. Leonard's jaw tightened. And yet she is here. Lucy crossed her arms, a fake smile on her lips. Let me guess. She's pretending to be innocent while planning to steal your money. Diana finally spoke. I am not here for anyone's money. Lucy scoffed. Oh, please. I've seen women like you before. You act humble, but the moment a rich man notices you, suddenly, you're in love. Diana's face burned, but before she could reply, Leonard stepped forward. His expression was dangerous now. That's enough, Lucy. Lucy blinked. What? I said that's enough. His voice was calm, but cold. Diana is Grandpa's guest. You will not insult her again. Lucy's mouth opened and closed, completely shocked. She had expected Leonard to agree with her. She had expected him to throw Diana out. But instead, he was defending her. And she knew one thing for sure. This girl was a threat. Lucy had always known Leonard wasn't in love with her. But she didn't care. As long as he gave her money to maintain her luxurious lifestyle, she was fine with it. The designer bags, the first-class vacations, the expensive jewelry, that was all that mattered. And now, some lowlife girl was ruining everything. Lucy wasn't about to sit still and watch her perfect arrangement slip away. No, she would get rid of Diana, one way or another. She angrily stormed out of the house. Meanwhile, in the quiet of his private room, Mr. Benson sat comfortably in his large armchair, sipping tea. Across from him stood Leonard, his arms crossed. "Grandfather, why did you call me here?" Mr. Benson set his cup down and looked his grandson in the eye. "That girl, Lucy," he said firmly. "She's not the one for you." Leonard sighed. "You've said this before, and I'll say it again." Mr. Benson cut him off. "If you marry a woman like her, you'll regret it for life." Leonard exhaled, rubbing his temple. "Grandfather, I have no plans to marry Lucy, or anyone else, for that matter." Mr. Benson nodded approvingly. "Good, because a woman like that only loves money, and the day things are no longer smooth sailing, she will leave you." Leonard said nothing, but his mind was full of thoughts about Diana. The next morning, Diana found Mr. Benson and Leonard in the breakfast lounge. She cleared her throat softly. Grandpa Benson, Mr. Leonard, there's something I've been meaning to tell you." Both men looked at her. I need to find a job," she said hesitantly. "I've been here for days, and I can't just stay for free. I need to earn my own money." Leonard raised an eyebrow. "A job?" Diana nodded. "Yes. I can't take advantage of your kindness. I want to work and be independent." Leonard leaned back in his chair, thinking for a moment. "I actually need a secretary," he said casually. Diana's eyes widened. "What?" Leonard folded his arms. "You're looking for a job. I'm looking for a secretary. Seems like the perfect solution." Diana gasped. "Work at Lux Group headquarters." Leonard nodded. "The position has been open for weeks. I need someone who is hardworking and trustworthy." He paused before adding, "You fit that description." Diana stared at him, overwhelmed. This job, it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It would pay more than she had ever earned before. With her first salary, she would become more independent and move back to her apartment. But working at Lux Group headquarters as Leonard's secretary, that was too much. I don't know," Diana murmured. Mr. Benson, who had been listening quietly, suddenly grinned. "My dear," he said gently, "you should take this chance." Diana bit her lip, but Mr. Benson interjected. "No buts. You deserve something good in life. You helped me when you didn't even know who I was. Let us help you now." Leonard watched her closely. "So what will it be?" Diana hesitated, then took a deep breath and nodded. "Okay," she said softly. "I'll do it." Mr. Benson's eyes twinkled with happiness. He had a secret plan. This job would bring Diana closer to Leonard, and maybe, just maybe, it would change both of their lives forever. The following morning, Diana stepped into the Grand Lux Group headquarters, dressed in a simple but elegant outfit. She held her bag tightly, feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. The lobby was huge, with marble floors and glass walls. Employees in expensive suits walked briskly, carrying files and speaking in crisp tones. She had never worked in a place like this before. As she reached the reception desk, a woman in a tight black dress gave her a cold stare. "You must be Diana," she said, eyeing her from head to toe. "Yes," Diana replied politely. The woman's lips curled in amusement. "So, you're the one who got the secretary position?" Diana nodded slowly. Another employee, a woman in a red suit, whispered loudly to her colleague, "I heard she slept with the HR manager to get the job." Diana's heart sank. Another woman snickered. "Or maybe she's a secret mistress." More whispers and laughter filled the room. Diana felt her cheeks burn. She wanted to scream, "That's not true." But she held her head high and said nothing. Let them talk. She was here to work. She would prove them all wrong. Lucy, on the other hand, was furious. It was bad enough that Diana was living in the Benson mansion, but now she had joined Lux Group. And not just anywhere. She was working directly under Leonard. Lucy had spent years trying to tie herself to Leonard, making sure no other woman got close. She had built an image that she was his future wife, the only woman who truly belonged beside him. And then came Diana, ruining everything. Lucy stormed through the office, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. Her face twisted with anger. She needed to get rid of Diana fast. As a senior manager in the company, she had power, and she knew exactly how to use it. By the end of the day, rumors were everywhere. She's only close to Leonard for his money. She must have seduced him to get this job. She's a gold-digging social climber. The whispers that had once been behind Diana's back now became open insults. When she walked into the break room, everyone went silent. Then someone laughed mockingly. "Look who it is." One of the employees smirked. "How does it feel to climb your way to the top by sleeping with the boss?" Another worker chuckled. "Maybe I should try getting close to the CEO too. Who knew it was this easy?" Diana felt her chest tighten. She wanted to scream that none of it was true, but she knew it wouldn't matter. They had already judged her, and it was all because of Lucy. The gossip reached Leonard's ears by lunchtime. When he found out who started it, his patience snapped. At a company-wide meeting that afternoon, Leonard Benson walked into the boardroom, his presence immediately demanding attention. Everyone went silent. Lucy sat at the head of the table, smug, thinking Leonard had finally realized Diana was a problem. Instead, his piercing gaze landed directly on her. "Lucy," he said coldly. She flipped her hair, putting on a sweet smile. "Yes, darling." Leonard's jaw tightened. "Diana saved my grandfather's life without asking for anything in return," he said, his voice loud and clear. "She is more of a human being than you will ever be." The room fell into dead silence. Lucy's smile vanished instantly. Diana's heart skipped a beat. Leonard wasn't done. He turned to the rest of the room. "If I hear one more word about Diana that isn't work-related, I'll personally fire the person responsible." Murmurs spread through the employees. Lucy's face burned with humiliation. She had never been spoken to like this before. Leonard Benson had humiliated her in front of everyone. At that moment, Diana felt something stir in her heart. She had never had anyone stand up for her like that before. She looked at Leonard, her eyes softening. Maybe, just maybe, he wasn't as cold as she thought. Lucy marched straight into Leonard's office, slamming the door behind her. "How dare you embarrass me like that?" she shrieked. Leonard barely looked up from his desk. "You should watch your tone, Lucy." "Watch my Leonard. People have always seen me as your future wife. Do you know what this does to my image?" Leonard finally looked at her, his expression icy cold. "You should have thought about that before you started a campaign of lies against someone who did nothing to you," he said sharply. Lucy's lips trembled. "You're choosing her over me?" Leonard sighed, rubbing his temple. "Lucy, you know we were never together." Lucy froze. "We have never dated," Leonard continued. "I never asked you to be my girlfriend. I never gave you a reason to think we were more than acquaintances." Lucy staggered back, as if she had been slapped. "So stop being possessive, Lucy," Leonard said, his voice firm. "I have never belonged to you." Lucy's hand shook. She had spent years in his shadow, building an illusion of a relationship that never truly existed. Since he had never denied the rumors before, she had convinced herself that maybe, just maybe, it would become real one day. But now, with just a few words, Leonard had shattered it completely. Without another word, she stormed out of the office, her face red with anger. As the days passed, Leonard and Diana worked closely together. At first, it was strictly business. Diana worked hard, ignoring the stares and whispers. But then something changed. Leonard found himself watching her more than he should. He found himself waiting for her smile. He found himself making excuses just to talk to her. One evening, as they worked late in his office, he finally said it. "Diana," he said suddenly, leaning against his desk. She looked up from her laptop. "Yes." He hesitated for just a second, then said, "Go out with me." Diana's fingers froze over the keyboard. Her heart skipped a beat. She blinked rapidly, thinking she had misheard. "Wait, what?" Leonard chuckled. "I said go out with me." Diana's breath caught in her throat. Leonard Benson, the man she had seen in magazines, the man every woman in the city dreamed of, was asking her out. She stared at him. Are you serious? Leonard smirked. I don't joke about things like this. Diana's hands clenched into fists. I don't know if I can. This is too much. You're Leonard Benson. I'm just what? Leonard interrupted gently. Just a girl who helped my grandfather when no one else did? Just a girl who refused money because she wanted to earn her own way. Diana's heart pounded. But what about Lucy? She asked quietly. Leonard reached for her hand, his touch warm and steady. Lucy is the daughter of my late father's friend, he said softly. Our relationship isn't what you think. Diana searched his eyes, looking for any sign of dishonesty, but she found none. Slowly, hesitantly, she nodded. Okay, she whispered. I'll go out with you. Leonard smiled, and in that moment, everything changed. When Grandpa Benson found out about Leonard and Diana dating, he was overjoyed. This is wonderful news, he declared, clapping his hands together. Finally, my grandson has opened his eyes and seen what was right in front of him. He had adored Diana from the moment she selflessly helped him at the boutique. He had always known she was special, but the rest of the world? Not so kind. Within days, celebrity gossip sites exploded with headlines. Leonard Benson, billionaire CEO, caught between two women. Playboy CEO dating his secretary? Lucy Williams loses her spot to a nobody. The media frenzy painted Leonard as a cheating billionaire. And Lucy? She pounced on the opportunity. She contacted every reporter she could find, pretending to be the heartbroken woman Leonard had betrayed. Oh, Leonard and I have been together for years, she lied in a televised interview, eyes glassy with fake emotion. I never thought he would replace me with a... She stopped dramatically. Well, you know. Everyone understood the insult. She was calling Diana a nobody, a gold digger. And for a while, it almost worked. But Mr. Benson was not a man to be played. The day after Lucy's interview, he called a press conference outside the Benson estate. Cameras flashed. Reporters crowded in. The world watched live. Mr. Benson stepped forward, his voice firm and strong. I am here to set the record straight, he said. My grandson, Leonard Benson, is not dating two women. Murmurs spread through the crowd. I want the world to know. Lucy has never been in a relationship with my grandson. She is nothing more than a family friend. Watching from her penthouse, Lucy screamed in frustration. But Mr. Benson wasn't done. My grandson has only one woman in his life, he continued. And I want everyone to know. I have only one daughter-in-law. He smiled warmly and gestured to the side. Diana, standing nervously in a simple but elegant dress, was brought forward. I want my grandson to marry Diana, Mr. Benson declared. She is the kind of woman Leonard needs in his life. The crowd went wild. Lucy's jaw dropped. Diana gasped. Wait, what? Flashes of cameras blinded her. Reporters shouted questions. Leonard turned to her, studying her reaction. He hadn't proposed yet, but hearing his grandfather say it out loud, it made him realize something. He wanted to. Meanwhile, back in her penthouse, Lucy gritted her teeth in rage. Diana wasn't just taking Leonard from her. She was taking everything. And there was only one person left who could stop it. Lucy picked up her phone and dialed. The voice on the other end answered sharply. Lucy, how are you? Lucy forced herself to sound calm. Lady Margaret, she said sweetly. I thought you should know a gold digger is after your son. There was a pause. Then Leonard's powerful, aristocratic mother spoke coldly. Explain. Lucy smirked. Her name is Diana. She's a nobody, a social climber. She tricked Grandpa Benson into thinking she's innocent, and now he wants her to marry Leonard. There was silence on the line. Then Lady Margaret's voice returned, sharp as ice. I'll be on the next flight home. Lucy smiled. Diana had no idea what was coming for her. Leonard was in his office when his phone buzzed. Mother calling. He sighed and rubbed his temples before answering. Mother. Leonard Benson, she said with clipped coldness. I assume you've heard the news? Yes, he replied calmly. and I expect you want me to fix it." "Exactly," Lady Margaret snapped. "I just arrived back home, and the first thing I see is the media parading some random girl as your future wife. This is unacceptable." Leonard's patience was running thin. "Diana is not some random girl," he said. "I love her, Mom." Outside the office door, Lucy, who had been eavesdropping, smirked. She dramatically pushed open the door and stepped inside. "Leonard," she purred, "you know what the easiest solution is." Leonard turned to her, his expression cold. Lucy flashed him a sweet smile. "Just break up with Diana," she said simply. Problem solved. Leonard's face darkened. "Lucy," he said slowly, "get out of my office." Lucy's smile faltered. "I was just trying to help." "Get out." Lucy's face turned red, but she had no choice. She walked out in silence. As soon as the door shut behind her, Lady Margaret's voice came through the phone again. "Leonard," she said coolly, "I'm coming over to your place tonight. We will discuss this in person, and I expect you to make the right decision." The call ended abruptly. Leonard set his phone down, his jaw clenched. That night, Diana sat alone in the Ion's garden, staring at the bright stars above. Her mind was heavy with thoughts. She was falling in love with Leonard. She could feel it, but now his mother was back. And from what she had heard, Lady Margaret was not an easy woman to impress. Leonard walked toward her, his presence calming. "You've been quiet," he said softly. Diana sighed. I don't want to come between you and your mother." Leonard tilted her chin up gently, making her look into his eyes. "You're not," he assured her. "But what if she never accepts me?" Diana whispered. Leonard didn't hesitate. "Then that's a loss." Diana's heart pounded. He cupped her face, his eyes filled with warmth. "Diana," he said gently, "I don't care what the world thinks. I don't care about the media, or Lucy, or even my mother's opinions. You are the only one I want." Her breath caught. Tears pricked her eyes. She had spent her whole life alone. No one had ever stood up for her like this. Later that night, Leonard stood in his office, arms crossed, his expression serious, as Lady Margaret Benson stormed in. She was a woman of grace and power, always dressed in elegant designer outfits, her presence commanding. But today, her carefully controlled composure was cracking. "Leonard," she said sharply, closing the door behind her, "what on earth do you think you're doing?" Leonard sighed. He had been expecting this. "I assume this is about Diana." Lady Margaret narrowed her eyes. "You assume correctly. This girl, this nobody, has tricked you. She sees your wealth and power and is using you to climb the social ladder." Leonard's jaw tightened. "Diana is not using me," he said firmly. "She didn't even want to accept my gifts. She hasn't demanded anything from me since the day I met her. She works hard and Work hard," his mother scoffed. "Please. The only thing she's working hard on is securing a ring on her finger." Leonard's eyes darkened. "Mother, you don't know Diana. And if you refuse to give her a chance, that's on you. But I am not leaving her." Lady Margaret clenched her fists, rage flashing in her eyes. "I am your mother, Leonard. I know what's best for you." Leonard took a deep breath, his voice calm but unwavering. "And I am a grown man, Mother. I make my own decisions." Lady Margaret stared at him, her lips pressed into a thin line. "You'll regret this," she said icily before walking out of the office. Leonard exhaled, running a hand through his hair. His mother was wrong about Diana, but he had no idea that someone else was planning something far worse. Lucy was losing her mind. Leonard had never officially been hers, but in her head, he belonged to her. And now that he had chosen Diana, she had one last move left. She needed to destroy Diana completely. Late that evening, when no one was watching, Lucy slipped into the Benson family's private jewelry room. Inside, expensive diamond necklaces and rings sparkled under dim lights. Lucy carefully picked one of the most valuable pieces, a diamond-studded necklace worth millions, and slid it into a small bag. Then, with a smirk, she walked straight toward Diana's bedroom. The next morning, Diana was getting ready for work when the mansion doors suddenly burst open. Guards stormed in, and behind them stood Lady Margaret, Lucy, and several members of the Benson family. Diana's heart pounded. What's going on? A guard stepped forward. Miss Diana, we need you to come with us. Why? Diana asked, confused. Lucy stepped forward, her eyes full of fake tears. I didn't want to believe it. She sniffled. But we found a missing necklace in your room. Diana froze. What? She gasped. Lucy dramatically covered her mouth. I was so shocked when the maids found it. I thought you were a good person. But now I see. You were only after Benson's wealth. Diana staggered back, her vision blurring with panic. No, I didn't take anything, she cried. The Benson family whispered among themselves. Lady Margaret crossed her arms. I knew it, she said coldly. A thief. Diana felt her heart breaking. Then enough. Everyone turned as Mr. Benson stepped forward. His expression was calm, but deadly serious. Diana is not a thief, he said firmly. I know this girl. She has too much integrity for something like this. We are missing something. Lucy's face stiffened in panic, but she quickly forced out a sob. Mr. Benson, I know you care for her, but the evidence means nothing, he snapped. We will investigate this thoroughly. Lady Margaret frowned but said nothing. Diana's eyes burned with tears. She had done nothing wrong. But no matter how much Mr. Benson defended her, the whispers, the stares from the guards, the staff, they all looked at her like she was guilty. It was too much. With one last glance at Leonard, she turned away, packed her things, and walked out of the mansion. Leonard tried to stop her, but Grandpa Benson gestured for him to let her go. The following morning, Diana sat in her small apartment, staring at the empty walls. She felt like she had lost everything. There was a knock at the door. When she opened it, she stumbled back in shock. Lady Margaret stood there, perfectly dressed, her face unreadable. Diana's heart raced. Mrs. Benson? Lady Margaret stepped inside, looking around with mild disgust at the small space. Then she turned to Diana, her expression calm but cold. I came to make you an offer, she said. Diana swallowed. What offer? Lady Margaret pulled out a checkbook, clicked her pen, and wrote down a number. Then she ripped out the check and placed it on the table. Diana's breath caught in her throat. $5 million. Leave Leonard forever, Lady Margaret said smoothly. This is yours. Diana's hand shook. She looked at the money, then at Lady Margaret. With tears in her eyes, she picked up the check and tore it in half. Lady Margaret stiffened in shock. I love your son, Diana whispered, but I will never take money to walk away. I am not a gold digger. For a moment, the room was silent. Then Lady Margaret smiled slightly. It wasn't a warm smile, but it was respectful. You're stronger than I thought, she murmured. Without another word, she turned and walked out. Diana sank to the floor, tears spilling down her face. Was this the end? Back at the mansion, Leonard had remained silent as Diana walked out. He had watched her leave, his chest tightening, but he hadn't stopped her, because he knew words wouldn't be enough. Diana had been wrongly accused, humiliated, and cast aside. The only way to bring her back was to clear her name completely. While the world believed he had done nothing, Leonard was already working behind the scenes. He reviewed every piece of security footage from that night. He spoke to the guards, the staff, and the maids. And when he finally found what he was looking for, he knew exactly how to expose Lucy for good. That afternoon, Leonard stormed into the Benson estate. His presence alone commanded silence as he entered the main hall. Lucy, dressed in an elegant gown, was already there sipping tea like nothing had happened. She looked up, smirking. Leo, she purred, standing up. I know you're hurting, but shut up, Lucy. Leonard cut her off coldly. The room fell silent. Lady Margaret, Mr. Benson, and the rest of the family were present, watching curiously. Lucy's smirk faltered. What? Leonard's eyes darkened with fury. You framed Diana, he said sharply. You stole the necklace and planted it in her room. Lucy laughed nervously. Leonard, that's ridiculous. Leonard raised a remote control and pressed play. A large screen lit up as security footage from the mansion played. The room watched in stunned silence. There she was, Lucy, sneaking into the jewelry room. Lucy taking the diamond necklace. Lucy slipped into Diana's room. Gasps echoed through the room. Lady Margaret's eyes widened in shock. Mr. Benson shook his head in disappointment. Lucy's face went pale. "No," she whispered, stumbling back. "This is a lie. It's fake." Leonard's lips curled into a cold smirk. "Is it?" A guard stepped forward. "Miss Lucy, you need to leave this estate immediately." Lucy panicked. "Leonard, please. I did it because I love you." Leonard's expression didn't change. "You love power, Lucy, and you chose to frame an innocent person for it." Lucy screamed in rage as the guards dragged her out of the mansion. Her dream of marrying Leonard destroyed, her reputation ruined, her last chance gone. After Lucy was thrown out, Lady Margaret sat silently for a long moment. Then she exhaled deeply. "I misjudged Diana," she admitted, turning to her father-in-law. "She never wanted money. She never wanted status. She just wanted Leonard." Mr. Benson smiled knowingly. "It's about time you realize that." Lady Margaret's lips twitched slightly. Then, for the first time, she nodded. "I think," she said quietly, "I'd like to speak with her again." Diana sat in her small apartment, staring at the ceiling. She had refused millions to leave Leonard, but she believed she had already lost him, or so she thought. A knock at the door made her sit up. She opened it to find a personal driver in a luxury suit. "Miss Diana," he said with a polite bow, "Mr. Leonard Benson has requested your presence at a private lounge." Diana's heart skipped a beat. Leonard wanted to see her? She hesitated. Should I go? Then she remembered how he had always defended her, how he had protected her when no one else did. Taking a deep breath, she nodded. "Take me to him." The private lounge was unlike anything Diana had ever seen. Soft golden lights, a candlelit dinner, and a breathtaking view of the city skyline. And standing in the center of it all was Leonard Benson. Diana froze, her breath catching. He smiled at her, a soft smile she had never seen before. "Diana," he said gently, walking toward her. "I've been waiting for you." Diana swallowed hard. "Leo, Before she could finish, Leonard did something that made her heart stop. He got down on one knee. Diana's eyes filled with tears. She covered her mouth as Leonard pulled out a beautiful diamond ring. "I don't care what the world says," Leonard said softly. "I don't care about the fake rumors. I only care about you." Diana's heart pounded as his voice trembled with emotion. "You are the strongest, kindest person I've ever met. Not only have you impacted my grandfather's life, you've changed mine." Tears slipped down Diana's cheeks as Leonard took a deep breath. "Diana," he said, "will you marry me?" She let out a shaky breath. Then, with a small, tearful smile, she whispered, "Yes." Leonard's eyes lit up as he slid the ring onto her finger. Then, in front of the glowing skyline, he pulled her into his arms and kissed her like she was his entire world. Diana had lost everything before, but now she had found something far greater. She had found love. The moment Diana and Leonard's engagement was announced, it spread like wildfire. Billionaire Leonard Benson engaged to ex-boutique assistant. The modern Cinderella story Diana, a simple girl, had won the heart of the country's richest CEO. Social media exploded. Some praised her kindness and humility, but no one was more shocked or bitter than Susan. She was fixing her makeup at the boutique when the headline flashed across her phone. Diana engaged to Leonard Benson. The same Diana she had humiliated. The same girl she had fired. Susan's hand trembled, her lipstick falling to the floor. "No," she whispered. "That's impossible." Her mind raced. How did this happen? How had the girl she looked down on won everything? Before she could process it, the boutique doors swung open. Leonard and Diana walked in. The boutique fell silent. Leonard, tall and powerful, held Diana's hand, his presence commanding respect. Diana was dressed elegantly, her engagement ring glittering under the lights. The same girl Susan had once treated like a nobody was now the future Mrs. Benson. Susan forced a smile. Her voice is sickeningly sweet. "Mr. Benson, Miss Diana, what an unexpected surprise." Leonard's eyes narrowed coldly. "I came here for one reason, Susan," he said. His voice was sharp as a blade. Susan swallowed hard. "Oh, of course, sir. Anything." Leonard crossed his arms. "You insulted my grandfather. You look down on people based on appearance. You bullied an employee who did nothing wrong." Susan's face paled as Leonard's voice hardened. "I would have fired you a long time ago," he said coldly. "But I wanted to tell you myself." Susan's heart dropped. "You're fired," Leonard stated firmly. "And let this be a warning. Discrimination and bullying will never be tolerated in my company." Gasps filled the store. Susan staggered back, her vision blurring. This was it. She had lost everything. As she watched Diana and Leonard walk away, Susan finally remembered something Mr. Benson once said. "Kindness is more valuable than expensive clothes." For the first time, she truly understood it. Her arrogance had ruined her, and there was no one else to blame but herself. While Diana and Leonard continued planning their wedding, another storm was brewing. Lucy, now desperate and full of rage, was not done yet. Though disgraced and thrown out, she still had one last weapon, her position at Lux Group. Using her managerial access, Lucy hacked into the company's financial records. She leaked confidential reports, sensitive business deals, investor contracts, and internal documents to the press. Her goal was simple: destroy Lux Group. If she couldn't have Leonard, she'd ruin him instead. The scandal hit the media instantly. Lux Group in crisis. Major financial data leaked. Is Leonard Benson's empire about to fall? Who's behind the biggest corporate breach of the year? Lucy smiled as she watched the chaos unfold. But her victory was short-lived. Leonard was already tracking her down. Lucy was celebrating in her apartment when she heard a loud knock at the door. Her heart pounded. Slowly, she opened it, only to freeze. Leonard stood there, his face icy. Behind him were two police officers. Lucy's smile vanished. "Leonard," she stammered. "What are you?" Leonard tilted his head, his voice as cold as steel. "You thought I wouldn't find out." Lucy stepped back, panic creeping in. "I don't know what you're talking about." Leonard held up his phone, showing her the evidence. The hack had been traced directly to her account. "Game over," he said simply. The officers stepped forward, placing handcuffs around Lucy's wrists. She screamed, "No, you can't do this to me. I love you." Leonard's expression didn't change. "You don't know what love is, Lucy." As the officers dragged her away, Lucy's world crumbled. She had lost for good. The day after Lucy's arrest, Lady Margaret sat quietly in the Benson mansion, deep in reflection. Diana had been humiliated, framed, and tested, but she had never broken. She had refused money. She had walked away with dignity. And most importantly, she had never tried to change Leonard. Lady Margaret finally realized something. Diana was exactly the kind of woman her son needed. That evening, she called Diana into the sitting room. Diana sat nervously, expecting another confrontation. Instead, Lady Margaret looked at her with calm, sincere eyes. "I misjudged you," she said softly. Diana blinked in shock. "My son is truly lucky to have you," Lady Margaret admitted. "And I hope that one day you'll allow me to be a part of your life as well." Diana's eyes filled with tears. For the first time, Lady Margaret had accepted her. Diana stood up and, hesitantly, wrapped her arms around Leonard's mother. Lady Margaret stiffened at first, then slowly hugged her back. Leonard, watching from the doorway, smiled to himself. Diana had won over everyone. And now, nothing stood in the way of their happiness ever after. The day of Diana and Leonard's wedding arrived, and it was nothing short of legendary. It was the biggest event in the country, drawing royalty, billionaires, dignitaries, and the world's most elite celebrities. Cameras flashed as luxury cars and limousines arrived at the Grand Cathedral, where the ceremony was set to take place. The floral arrangements alone had cost millions. Chandeliers glittered like diamonds, and every guest was treated like royalty. But nothing, compared to the woman at the center of it all. Diana, dressed in a custom-made couture gown, she stepped out of the luxurious bridal car. Her dress flowed like a river of stars, encrusted with pearls and diamonds. A tiara rested gently on her head, specially designed just for her, a symbol that she was no longer just a simple girl from nowhere. She was now Diana Benson, the future queen of high society. As she walked down the aisle, everyone rose to their feet, gasping in admiration. The same people who had once mocked her, the very colleagues who had whispered behind her back, were now cheering for her. And at the end of the aisle stood Leonard Benson. His eyes were locked on her, heart pounding. She was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. And today, she would become his forever. As the ceremony neared its final moments, Mr. Benson stepped forward. The entire hall fell silent. In his hands, he held a small antique box. "Diana, my dear," he said warmly, looking at her with pride. "From the first day I met you, I knew you were special. You showed kindness when no one else did. And today, you are not just marrying my grandson. You are becoming part of our family." He opened the box. Inside was a rare, priceless heirloom, a golden brooch encrusted with sapphires, passed down for generations in the Benson family. "This," Mr. Benson continued, "belongs to the woman who will carry our family's legacy. And today, I will give it to you." Diana's eyes filled with tears as he gently pinned it to her gown. "Welcome to the family, my child," he said softly. The guests erupted into applause. But the most important gift was yet to come. As the reception began, Leonard took Diana's hand and led her to the center of the ballroom. "I have something for you," he murmured, his voice soft but sure. He reached into a velvet box and lifted out the most stunning diamond necklace anyone had ever seen. Gasps filled the room. It was called the Ocean Front, a masterpiece of rare blue diamonds, valued at $30 million. A piece of jewelry fit for a queen. Diana's breath caught in her throat. "Leonard, this is too much," she whispered. But Leonard gently placed the necklace around her neck, his fingers brushing her skin as he fastened it in place. He looked into her eyes, his voice deep and raw with emotion. "You are the only woman I will ever love," he said steadily. "And my love for you is as deep as the ocean." Diana's heart pounded. A tear slipped from her eye. Leonard gently wiped it away. "You changed my life," he continued. "You gave me something money never could a reason to love." Diana threw her arms around him, whispering, "I love you too." And then Leonard kissed her. It wasn't just a kiss. It was a promise, a declaration, a new beginning. The entire room erupted in applause, fireworks bursting outside, celebrating their love. Among the crowd, Diana's former co-workers stood in stunned silence. Susan, the senior staff, everyone who had once looked down on her, were now cheering for her. The nobody they had mocked was now the most powerful woman in high society. And at the edge of the ballroom, watching it all unfold, stood Mr. Benson. He smiled, his heart full of pride and satisfaction. Diana had proven her worth, and now she will be forever loved. As the music played and Diana and Leonard shared another kiss beneath the glowing chandeliers, Mr. Benson chuckled softly to himself. "Good things happen to good people," he whispered. And Diana Benson would have a love story for the ages. Did this story touch your heart? Share your thoughts in the comments. On a scale of 0 to 10, how powerful was this tale? Smash that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon so you never miss a story that stirs your soul. For more heart-racing, emotional tales, tap the end screen now.